welcome to Fantastic Books and where to find them. So I finally finished The Cruel Prince by Holly Black, and wow, thankfully it's continuing on from the other good books I've read this year, and I've given this book a 5-star rating. So a quick non-spoilery overview slash review, seeing as it is fairly new out, so there will potentially be people out there who haven't read it yet. It's the first in a series. It's centred around mainly a character called Jude, whose parents are both killed by a fairy, and he kidnaps her and her 2 sisters and takes them back to Fairy and raises them as sort of his own. Jude and her other mortal sibling Taryn are both mocked for being mortal. There's actually quite a poetic line about mortals already being born dead sort of thing, which is a bit dark, I know, but it sort of describes how they see how the Fae see the short lives of the humans. I'm trying to think what I can say without spoilers. So obviously you can tell there's going to be bullying in this, and the way it's done, it really projects a sense of helplessness, and oh my god, it enraged me. I was bullied as a younger child, as I'm sure a lot of people have been, and can probably relate to that helplessness, and I was so angry at the bullies for that. I literally would stop reading. I'm like, my jaw really hurts, and realize I've had my jaw clenched the entire time that I'm reading. The tension is really good. Again, like I said, no spoilers, but especially bullying related, when things start to get serious, a lot of the scenes there were quite frightening, I think. Not in a horror kind of way, but like in a tension sort of way. This book is written, I think, in the present tense. Yep, present tense. Which you don't tend to see, I don't think, very often anymore. And I enjoyed it. I think maybe that helped add to the tension quite a bit. I know there have been some people who haven't got on with it kind of as well because of that. I don't think I really noticed. I had to literally just check to see what person it was written in. Like I said, there's not really a lot more I can say without giving away spoilers, so if you haven't read it, I'm going to suggest you do. It's definitely a must read this year. It's not an especially long book, which is nice, so it's nice easy to get through. It definitely leaves you wanting more, and the Fae world is very much what I would class as like a YA Fae world, which is very similar to ACOTAR, where you've got like the beautiful Fae. They also have like goblins and nixies, and just they're all sort of animalistic as well, which I really, really liked. I like that portrayal of the Fae world being like that, but they're not that close to human, they're more animalistic and bestial in nature. But yeah, it's a good solid book. It's written well. I felt contented when I finished it. I wanted the next one immediately, don't get me wrong, but I was happy with the way it ended. Okay, maybe not happy because like I said, I need the next one immediately, but it was rounded. It didn't feel like there was anything lacking, which I find can sometimes happen in books that, in a series. So yeah, if you haven't read it, go read it right now, as I would usually say. I will stick a book depository link in the description below for you, so if you want this you can check it out yourself. It's recommended by Lee Bardugo, so you can't not. Okay, so now on to the spoiler territory. So last chance, if you've not read it, you don't want to watch past this point unless you're not worried about spoilers, because I am going to go full on into spoiler territory. So I didn't have this book. I came very, very close because there are a lot of lines that I did like, but I have been taking notes on my phone pretty much the entire time because it felt like it was a book that I did want to remember certain parts about. So I mentioned the bullying and the unfairness of it all. That's what really, really annoys me. It just all felt so unfair. Since I was bullied at school, I've always had this feeling of everything has to be fair. And I know it's not. And it really, really bugs me when things aren't fair. So like I said, the bullying in this really, really got to me and really just made me mad. It's one thing that really gets me in books and shows and films, and I think that translated really well in this. One of my lines of notes is, please not Carden or even look. I think that's about the love interest side of things, because a lot of YA books, they usually have a love interest. And this one is, in a way, no exception, but I did really like the way this was done. I assumed it was going to be Carden. I assumed he was going to be the cruel prince, and she would end up making him not cruel or looking past that cruelness and falling in love with him, but it didn't happen, and I really, really liked that. She did end up having a bit of a thing for Locke, obviously, and I don't know what it was about him, but I didn't trust him almost from the start. I think maybe because they got together and it seemed to be going too well too early in the book, maybe, and I think there's some suspicious things happened, and it just got to the point where I was like, I don't trust anyone, and I really like that in a book. It's one of the reasons I love The Loneliest Girl in the Universe, because I'm like, I don't know what's going on and what is even real. So I like that. And again, beginning a Fae book, they obviously are full of tricks, so I really liked that that was a really prominent feature in this. Speaking of prominent features, that also came in handy was the way that Jules started building up a poison immunity. So she's obviously giving herself these different poisons and building up her immunity to it, which I think is brilliant. Especially because then she ends up using it. She poisons Maddox in a very Princess Bride style-y. So like the arcane powder, like which one was poisoned? Both were poisoned. The idea being that the person who is giving the poison is immune to it. Or in Jules' case, at least immune enough that it's not going to knock her out. I liked that was kind of a passing comment and didn't seem overly important, but was handy. You know, it seemed like it was relevant to the fairy fruit part. And then it came and was helpful later on. I thought I really, really liked that kind of, not necessarily a foreshadowing, but like a forethought. That was, I love when things like that happen. And this book is actually kind of full of it, which is probably one of the reasons it's one of my favourite books. Probably will be up there in my top 10 or 20 just because of that. I love that sort of thing. I became super attached to the Court of Ghosts. I think maybe because they remind me of Ari and Junko and the team from the Poison Study books. But Roach, the Ghost, the Bomb, I really am looking forward to seeing more of them, hopefully, in the next book. I was so worried about one of them being killed or betraying them. And yeah, so I'm really glad that we got them and they were a nice group of people for me to be attached to. The scene, I think, is at the coronation when Jules and Locke are dancing and Locke goes super creepy. Now, I wanted to like Locke, and I think the first sort of 20-30 pages I did because he was described as having fox fur hair, and that basically just reminds me of Lucien from ACOTAR. So I was naturally attracted to him to start with, and then started getting suspicious of him. But then he goes full out creepy when he says things like, "Would you still love me if I hurt you?" Which again is a very Fae thing. But I'm glad that George is like, wow, what? No. And then Cardan comes and interrupts. And I think I naturally thought, oh, well, this is Cardan being set up as the knight in shining armour. He's there to save her from Locke. And then also we see Locke a little bit, like, a few minutes later, really, next to Taran, and Taran's, like, pushing a lock of hair away from his face. I was like, oh, there we go. Which was kind of a given, I think, earlier on. It was not obvious, but it was a pretty high chance that Locke was Taran's suitor that she wasn't allowed to talk about. Especially because Locke's like, I like to make up stories if nothing interesting's happening, and this seems pure Locke. They found out that, yeah, that is the case. And I never really liked Taran, I guess. She was just kind of like there, and then she was annoying me because she wasn't doing anything. But I completely hated her for this betrayal, I guess. But I don't know if I expected anything better. I know I didn't expect anything better from Locke at this point. But I don't know, I thought maybe Taran would come through. I don't know, but I was just annoyed at her for it. Like I said, Locke didn't bother me because I already thought he was a bit of a trash at this point. Speaking of the coronation scene, we have, well, the almost coronation scene, I should say. I don't feel like I was that surprised by Maddox's coup. Well, Maddox and Belkin's coup, I guess. I think as soon as the messenger was shot and Jules was like, oh yeah, that's one of Maddox's spies, I was like, oh, there we go, Maddox involved. I didn't guess anywhere near why he was involved. I thought that maybe he was gonna try and get Jules married to Prince Cardan or Belkin or even Dane, I don't know. I assumed that there was going to become some kind of marriage allegiance sort of thing there, and that's why he didn't want her to become a knight. So, yeah, I mean, it was pretty horrific how, you know, most of the royal family, all the royal family apart from Cardan and Belkin were killed. But I don't know. It wasn't bad. I just don't think it had the shock factor it was maybe meant to. But not for me. I mean, I can see it having that for other people, but just not for me. So we have, this is the point really, actually probably when Cardan interrupted Locke, he starts becoming very love interest-esque, I would say. I think I did text one of my friends saying, commence love interest mode for Cardan. He does change, he becomes a lot more cooperative, and you don't see the sting quite as much with him at this point, I think. And back to, not technically back to the coup, but Oak. Oh my god, I totally didn't see that. I did wonder actually whether Oak was like definitely Maddox or not. I figured he would have been described as having the cat eyes if that was the case. I like this is one of the things that sort of was linked together by a lot of the other things that happened in the book, like Jules going to Locke's mansion house and finding that golden acorn in his mother's dress, and finding the note in Belkin's tower, and just loads of other things, and how it all culminated together to this one answer, that Oak is a member of the royal family. I totally didn't see that coming, and that's probably one of the biggest shocks I think that I experienced in this book, and the one I didn't see coming even a little bit. I do also enjoy that it gives us another side of Oriana as well. I thought she had a lot of evil stepmother syndrome going on to start with, but at this point when we find out about Oak's parentage and how she pretty much saved him from his dying mother and looked after him and raised him as her own, and then was willing to let him go so he would be safe, that like boosted Oriana numerous amounts. She's above Taryn now. So I really enjoyed seeing that side of her. Then there's Cardan's interrogation scene with Jules, which I probably liked a bit more than I probably should have done. I felt like it was really written well and was probably one of my favourite scenes in the entire book. You've got Jude accidentally opening up to Cardan about how she feels, which is pretty cool. And then you have some of my favourite lines. Most of all, I hate you because I think of you often. It's disgusting and I can't stop. That doesn't sound as romantic reading it back. Not that it's necessarily romantic at the time, but I just really enjoyed that. Because he can't lie and he doesn't sugarcoat it. And then you hear Jude is thinking, it is a heady feeling having power over someone, over Cardan, who I never thought had any feelings at all. I really like that. That was described, I think, really well. And this is probably one of my absolute favourite lines. This is probably just kind of pervy for me, really. But, you really do want me, I say, close enough to feel the warmth of his breath as it hitches, and you hate it. I just love that she's toying with him. I don't know, it's because maybe we see the reversal of this sort of thing in books occasionally, but I just found it really satisfying and I loved it. And obviously they kiss, but it's not necessarily like a romantic kiss. They're both angry, and I like the fact that Jude doesn't do a complete stereotypical heroine and completely lose her head here. She still keeps that power and she still continues to mock him. I was adamant at the beginning of this book that I would not hate Cardan at all. And I said the same for Rysand, I said the same for Rowan, and I thought this time would really be different. But I've been fooled again. And it's not because he has maybe feelings for Jude, or whatever the hell that is, but because I understand the reasons behind a lot of the things he did. And when you think back, after he's explained, he never actually wanted to hurt her, he just wanted to scare her. Not that that's okay, but I think maybe the hatred just isn't as intense as it had been when I thought he was just trying to get her killed and using her as a plaything. There's actually a couple of lines that completely stole me away and explained it really well. When they return to Hallow Hall and the door knocker goes, "My prince," and Cardan says, "My door." I don't know why that completely, I haven't laughed at a book in a while, but that made me actually laugh out loud and had to stop reading for a minute. And the line, despite the fact that he is terrible, Cardan is also fun. Think maybe that's my problem. I don't think it's just Cardan that we necessarily see a change in, but also Jude. Jude has such a great character arc in this, which is nice to see, because I don't think you get a lot of good character development from the main characters necessarily nowadays. They just get proven right, or they become more powerful, and maybe they deal that power, but this, and I guess Jude does become more powerful in a way, but it's through her own doing mainly. She is terrified, but she learns to harness that fear and use it to change things to the way that she believes is right and fair, to the point where she is even fighting and poisoning her sort of father. So I know you're probably waiting for me to talk about the twist. Unlike with the Oak one, which I don't think I had any clue about it happening, this I felt there was literally one line, and as soon as that happened I was like, oh no. That was phase 4, Cardan whispers to me, still believing we're on the same side. I was like, no, what's happening? I stopped reading to text Steph, and because she'd already read it at this point, and say, what is happening? This is not good. And I was like, is Cardan, is she, I can't form coherent sentences. And I was like, is she going to betray him? Is she going to crown herself? She can't crown herself. What is happening? And my brain wouldn't function. Oh, she's going to crown Cardan. And I thought maybe that was the plan anyway originally. I thought perhaps they would crown Cardan and then he would defer down to Oak when he was old enough. So although it didn't feel like it was a massive twist, because once I stopped freaking out about them potentially betraying each other, and I guess she still kind of did, which I kind of like in a way, the fact that I assumed for a while that he was going to betray her, and I think maybe a lot of people did, but in the end it was technically her betraying him, although I think she's probably going to pay for that in the next book. Which brings me to the point that we need the next book now. I do think maybe we could even have like a novella in between, like a little story about Oak in the human world or Carden in the Fae world. Maybe both. Let's have both, and we can have Jude hop in between the both of them. And then we need that book. But I think I would want this book to be 7 years on when Oak is coming back. I don't think I'm interested enough in the middle bit for that much of a big story. Hence maybe like some little novellas. I mean, it depends. I have no idea what Holly Black got in the pipeline. I'm sure it's going to be amazing if it's just anything like this book, and I can't wait to see where she goes with it. So this book obviously gets a whopping 5 stars and completely deserves it. It was deliciously dark, it had twists, it didn't conform too much, and it completely sucked me in. I feel like if I had the time I would have just sat down and read this for 2 days straight. It was that good and that absorbing. So that's all I've got for now. I could probably talk about this book. Have you read this book? If so, let me know what you thought about it in the comments. If you're gonna read this book, fantastic. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up. If you really liked it, give us a subscribe, which is brilliant. And until then, I'll see you next time. Goodbye!